which Sri Ramakrishna had followed, the yogas, the 4 yogas, in the Bhakti Yoga, we had taken up the ideal of the different bhava, that is the Shanta bhava, then the Dasya bhava, then the Sakhya bhava, the attitude from which we can go towards God in the form of the friendship. The first one was the Shanta bhava, peaceful mood. Then the Dasya bhava, the mood with which you adopt to have the attitude of servant toward God. Then Sakhya bhava, just now you explained. Then in the last Saturday satsanga, I explained about the Vatsalya bhava. When we see these bhavas, the gradation, hierarchy, see it goes by step, above, based on the nearness of God, where the fear of God is going away, you become more closer and closer to God. Today we shall take up another higher aspect of the relationship with God, that is Madhura Bhava, sweet attitude, by which you can approach God or establish a relationship with God and then attain to that God realization. Madhura, sweet mood. Now, what is this Madhura Bhava or sweet mood? Is the relationship with which we establish with God, just like the wife has the relationship with the husband. So there, she becomes very close with God. There will be no difference between the wife and the husband. Likewise, the fear is gone. So this Madhura Bhava was practiced by some of the Vaishnava Acharyas, many other saints, many other rishis, and these people might have practiced it, but it is not recorded. But it is more visible in the school of Vaishnavism. So many a place we cannot understand that. Now, in the life of Sri Ramakrishna, he practiced every aspect of spiritual life and showed that it is true path by which it will lead to that one God. The unique life of Sri Ramakrishna and the extraordinary history of this mode of bhakti, bhava, that is Madhura Bhava. The Madhura Bhava is said to be the greatest contribution of the Vaishnava teachers or acharyas like Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to the spiritual world. Had they not preached this, many people would have been without a means to God realization and the peace and bliss resulting from that path. They were the first to understand that the Vrindavana Leela of Sri Krishna and the Gopikas, so many gopis, Radha, including Radha, they all aspired for Krishna. The Rasa Leela would have not been understood. What is this confusion? So now, the advent of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, one of the greatest of the Vaishnava Acharya, it made it clear what this Leela of Krishna. To some extent, you may understand Bhagavad Gita, but it's very, very difficult to understand the Leela, the play of the gopis and Krishna, until your mind is pure. If you have even a slightest tinge of lust, you cannot understand. You will misunderstand rather. So, temple should not be there. The army marched. The spies could understand some of the other Rajasthan, Rajput spies. They came from Rajasthan and took away some of the important, old, ancient images of Lord Krishna which were established during the time of Parikshit Maharaja, the grandson of Arjuna or the son of Abhimanyu. All those were taken stealthily in bullock carts, hidden in grass to Rajasthan and established there. Army came and razed the whole of Vrindavan into grounds. Rubble, only stone upon stone. If you go to Vrindavan, some places you can see the broken pieces of those beautiful temples. So, then Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and his disciples, they came to this rubble of stones, and it was forest. Nothing was there. It was destroyed completely. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu came and his disciples came. They rediscovered all the spots. Whatever you see now in Vrindavan is the rediscovery of those great saints. Where did what do you call, the Krishna, he jumped into the Yamuna river, and that snake Kalinga Mardana happened. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and his disciple in meditation, they used to rediscover all those places. Where the Rasa Leela took place, where was that temple, where was Krishna, he played this, where he used to go, the Radha Kund, the Shama Kund, all was rediscovered by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and his disciples. But for that, Vrindavan was just forest. Not only they physically rediscovered Vrindavan, but they rediscovered it at the spiritual plane also. That is what is mentioned here. What is that? They were the first to understand that the Vrindavan Leela of Shri Krishna and the gopis were not acted in vain, and also to make efforts to explain it to others. But for the advent of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Vrindavan would have been regarded as an ordinary forest. Now, the present day generation, especially Hindu youths and everybody, they read little science and they get little education, some degree or master degree, and ego will come up, props up. Then they will think, oh, all these things in the religion which have happened are all nonsense. And they will deny, they will become atheist, or they will start criticizing them, endeavoring in the imitation of the West to record only outward events. The historians of the modern age will say, but there is no evidence that the play of Vrindavan actually took place as you say. Therefore, don't you see that so much of your joy and sorrow and the moods including of the Mahabhava are all without a basis? The Vaishnava teachers would say in reply, told, I don't believe it. Why? Because it has not come in the newspaper. No, it is in my neighborhood we saw it. No, I will not believe it. Why? I have not seen in the TV or the newspaper. Okay, he will bring the newspaper and show. Then he will start telling, no, it has not come in the newspaper which comes to my house. This is the way people disbelieve. Now Ramakrishna is telling, okay, let us think that according to science and other things, it has not happened. But can't you see the attraction, the bhakti of Radha towards Krishna? That is enough for you. For practicing the devotion, what more do you want? Sri Ramakrishna is telling to those people, those young educated, English educated boys, why don't you mark and grasp the attraction of Radharani, heart for Krishna in the divine play? When one has that kind of attraction for God, when one has that kind of attraction for God, one realizes God. That is enough. For you to realize God, that is enough. Why do you want the historicity, scientific proof? If you get that attraction of Radharani to Krishna and you get that same attraction to God, you will realize God. That is enough for you. The joy they would get would be millions and millions times greater than this sexual joy. Just to see Krishna. Then how can you tell that was with the attitude of lust or sex? It was pure love for the Lord. Sri Ramakrishna tells, millions and millions times greater than the sexual joy. Then why do they need this lower thought? That is a basal thought. Ramakrishna is proving. As soon as they saw Krishna, the embodiment of existence, knowledge, bliss, infinite existence, absolute, infinite knowledge, absolute, infinite bliss, absolute, joy, absolute. The gopis felt a joy in their hearts, tens of millions of times greater than sexual pleasure. They then lost their body consciousness. Could the idea of sex enjoyment be contemptible body? Cross their mind then? it could even not come in their mind. Such was the joy they would feel, Ramakrishna is telling. Divine light coming out of Sri Krishna touched their bodies, producing in every pore of their bodies infinitely greater pleasure than that of the sexual enjoyments. Only if you have purity of mind, you can understand that Sri Ramakrishna is telling. At one time, with this incident with Swami Vivekananda, I will stop this talk on Madhura Bhava and I'll continue it in the next session. At one time, Swami Vivekananda raised an objection in regard to the historicity of the play of Radha. Nowhere in Bhagavatam or in any of the Mahabharata there is mention of the name of Radha. Then how can you tell that Radha existed? Was the question. I should be scientific, I should be logical. Vivekananda was always scientific. He raised this objection. Now, how did Ramakrishna solve it? At one time, Swami Vivekananda raised an objection in regard to the historicity of the play of Radha and Krishna at Vrindavan and made an attempt to disprove its authenticity. The master said in reply, "Very well, Narain, let us take for granted that there was never anyone called Radha and that some loving sadhaka had an imaginary concept of Radha's personality." Let us imagine so. But while picturing that character of that Radharani, the sadhaka, the spiritual aspirant, you must admit, had to lose himself completely in that Radha's mood. And thus he becomes Radha himself. Isn't it? It is thus true that the play at Vrindavan was thus enacted in the outer world also. You should rethink about this again and again. I think you have not understood it, but rethink. I will go through that again. Now Ramakrishna is telling to Narendra, the master in reply said, "Very well, let us take for granted that there was never anyone called Radha and that some loving sadhaka, that is spiritual aspirant, had an imaginary conception of Radha's personality. But while picturing that character, that spiritual aspirant, sadhaka, you must admit, had to lose himself completely in Radha's mood, and thus he himself will become Radha. It is thus true that the play at Vrindavan was thus enacted in the outer world also." Can